Ephesians chapter 4, verse 20 and 24. That, however, is not the way of life you learned. When you heard about Christ and were taught in him in accordance with the truth that is in Jesus, you were taught with regard to your former way of life, to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness.
Let me see if you can relate to this. A few weeks ago, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, made a trip to the Houston area to visit a friend. Now, you guys remember that about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, a friend of mine from Nashville, Ted Matthews, and I visited G. Virga, who lives down in the Houston area. And we found him to be, we were all high school friends, and found him to be in kind of failing health, and we decided that we needed to come back from time to time and visit him. And so Ted and I decided a couple of weeks ago we would meet him down in that area, and we would just meet there, whereas the first time we got together and went down there. So got in the car, and I've got an 8-hour trip. Got an 8-hour drive. Now, driving doesn't bother me. I was raised in city driving. It doesn't bother me. The lane change and the traffic. But what concerns me about driving is the time investment. Because to me, driving's kind of a waste of time. I'm a get there kind of person, not a smell the roses on the way kind of person. So I could be doing something else with 8 hours rather than spending it behind the wheel doing this over and over and over. And then redundancy, and I'm a bit attention deficit disorder. So I need a change of things or scenery and all that, or I get real bored. And if you've experienced the drive on 44 between Oklahoma City and Tulsa, that's like putting a gun in your mouth because there's nothing to see, and it's just a vast wasteland as far as what it looks like to me. All right, so I'm driving to Houston, and it's because I'm not a smell the roses kind of guy, it is how far am I? How much time? How much further is it? And so in my own mind, my child is saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And my other part of me is saying, shut up, it's gonna be a while. So it's frustrating. So you drive for 3 hours and you look down. 3 miles? That's as far as I made it, 3 miles? So it's a fight against the odometer, it's a fight against the clock, and it's constantly looking at them and how much further, because the focus is the destination. Got on there, had a great visit. Now I'm getting in the car to come back. Had to have a talk with myself. And it went something like this. Steve, you're going to be driving all day. Let it go. Expect to be driving all day. Expect that this day is a wash. You're not going to be able to do anything else. You're just going to drive and drive and drive. That's your expectation. I can't tell you how freeing that was. Because as I'm driving, it's not about getting there. It's about wasting this day. No. It's about, all right, my expectation is to drive all day, so my focus is no longer on the driving and the getting there. So I spent time reflecting on what we had done that weekend. I reflected on the discussion that we had. I reflected on the changes in our lives that had taken place. I reflected on a sermon that I was going to be preaching. Some of my best sermons are developed in the car. And before I knew it, I'm in Dallas. And I get back to this thinking, and before I know it, I'm in Oklahoma. And it was a totally different experience driving back as it was driving forward. And I want you to understand that because I'm attention deficit when it comes to that, I have an endurance problem. It's hard for me to endure 8 hours of driving. It's not the driving, again, it's the time. What I needed was a change in mindset. Because the 8 hours is not going to change. That's how long it's going to take. So the trip back was just as long as the trip forward, but with a totally different paradigm in my head. That changed everything. Now, guys, from time to time in our lives, we have to endure things. And the word endurance means it's tough, or we're celebrating. See, the difference between endurance and celebrating is celebrating we love. Endurance we chafe under, right? And being an attention deficit culture, we want things to change. And we expect them to change often and quickly. We're a change culture, and we have developed into an attention deficit culture. So I fit in very well in this culture. But what that creates a challenge for is endurance. Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, runaway bestseller in the business world, runaway bestseller in the world. Covey talked about getting on a subway in New York City. And a man walked on the subway with several of his kids. And he sat down in his seat and he just looked at the floor while his kids were going wild. And Covey saw this, and as many people who are about structure and organization as Covey is, it started getting all over his nerves because these kids are getting into people's space, getting into their faces. They're making the ride really, really tough. And Covey got enough of it, and he finally went and sat across from that guy, and he said, "Sir, sir." And the guy finally looked up. "Huh? Do you realize what your kids are doing? Your kids are disrupting. They're going to get to the point of tearing things up if you don't do something." And he was, as you can imagine, irritated with the man. And the man said, "Oh, I'm sorry. We just left the hospital where their mom just passed away. They don't know what to do, and frankly, I don't know what to do either." And Covey wrote about how his whole paradigm just shifted. And yours did too. Because the context changed, but nothing in the situation changed. The perception of it changed. The mindset entering it changed. The paradigm that we were judging things through changed because of information that was shared that we didn't have. Now everything made sense. And to a certain extent, it was explainable and understandable and forgivable. Because our minds changed. Our minds expected difference. I want you to understand when it comes to endurance that God is working where you are, and we forget that. Philippians chapter 1, verse 6, it says, "For I am confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will perfect it until the day of Christ Jesus." Please trust that fact. God is perfecting you. Now, his process in perfecting you means developing you, but it also means your endurance. It means that you find yourself in a process, not realizing he's perfecting me, yet enduring it because I trust that he knows what he's doing. And I trust that he never forgets me. That even in this, he's working. I want you to know that his working in you never changes. It's true whether you're hurrying or whether you're rejoicing. He's working in you toward his purpose. And that means sometimes we got to reprogram our self-talk, such as, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be on I-35. I don't want to be on I-45. I don't want to be passing this time behind this wheel." I want to be somewhere else. I want to do something else. I need change in my life. Sometimes we have to reprogram, I don't want to be here, or I don't want to experience this, or I don't think I can make it through this. 2, this is Jesus' wilderness, my addition. What the wilderness was to Jesus, this is to me. This is Paul's prison, but my branch. What Paul had to deal with in writing the book of Philippians, I'm having to deal with just my addition of it. I can't imagine how he will strengthen me through this, but I know he will. The purpose of your endurance is God strengthening you. The purpose of you keeping on, hanging in there, all of those phrases that we have, is that through this very process, he's strengthening you if you trust him. But know that circumstances change. We should expect that. Sometimes you can change your situation. If you can, do. But sometimes you can't. And that's when you have to change your mind. That's when you have to change your perspective. That's when you change the paradigm through which I'm evaluating this. It's okay to say my situation is not what I want it to be. If you understand my situation is where he wants me to be. And if he has begun a good work in you that Paul was convinced he will bring to fruition through you, you're going to be in valleys. You're going to be in wildernesses that you don't want to be in. And it's okay to say, this is not where I want to be. It's okay to say, if there's any other way, let this cup pass. But not my will, your will be done. And that's how you change the self-speak. My situation is where he wants me to be right now. And for as long as it takes for my situation to bring about his purpose. Therefore, I will endure. Not by my strength, by his. But I will set my mind to endure. I am going to put up with this as long as he desires me, because he is teaching me. And I can't see that, but I believe that. My situation is where he wants me to be. You see, if you believe in providence, he has brought you so far where he wants you to be. This may not be at all where you stay. His providence will put you, if you trust him and follow his lead, he will lead you where he wants you to be. Sometimes that's a destination to the next place you'll be. Sometimes it's endurance. It could be, my situation is what he wants me to overcome by his power. My situation is what he wants me to learn to endure. He wants me to learn perseverance because he's training me for something I might need in the future. My body will endure what my heart hopes. Isaiah 57. If you had journeyed to the king with oil and increased your perfumes, you've sent your envoys a great distance and made them go down to Sheol. You were tired out by the length of your road, yet you did not say it is hopeless. You found renewed strength. Therefore you did not faint. It didn't say you came up with renewed strength. You found it. Because God always makes it available when we run out. You were tired out by the length of your road, but you didn't say it's hopeless. You found renewed strength. Philippians chapter 4, now remember, he's in prison writing a book about joy, which in and of itself is a unique irony. Not that I speak from want, for I have learned to be content. One of the greatest pieces of mind you will achieve is when you learn contentment. And please understand, it has nothing at all to do with your circumstances. Paul wrote in chapter 1 about his circumstances. I've been in prison. I can't preach anymore. I can't do what God called me to do. Circumstances will remove joy if you depend on circumstances to bring you joy. Because you're looking for my circumstances to change. It's got to be different. Why is this happening to me? Why are you allowing this to happen? Why didn't it happen to somebody else? All of those questions are based on my circumstances. I desire different circumstances. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this situation. I don't want to endure this. Change my circumstances. And sometimes the response of God is change your heart. Change your mind. And Paul did. And I want to suggest to you he's writing in part what he learned in prison. I have learned to be content. Listen to me. When you have learned contentment in prison, you have become godly. And you will be overwhelmed with a spirit of peace. Not that I speak from want, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. Contentment is not based on circumstances. It's based on a paradigm shift. I know how to get along with humble means. And I know how to live in prosperity. Did you see the difference there? I notice how to get along with humble means. And I know how to live in prosperity. He's showing you the bias. But he's also expressing, I can be content getting along. Can you be content getting along? Can you be content coping with? I've learned to deal with this. I've learned to accept this. That's what he's saying. That's where contentment comes. And from that comes peace. And from that comes joy. And now he's writing a letter about joy when he's lost everything. I know how to get along with humble means, and I know in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now listen to the difference. I can do all things. That's possibility thinking. Those are also the monosyllables of madness. I can do all things. Paul can't do what he just described. But he said, I can do all things through Christ. And you see, people take that passage out of its context and they want to add it to possibility thinking. I can do all things. I can be anything. I can achieve this. I can achieve that. And what he's saying is, I can cope with, I can get along with humble means, as well as celebrate, live prosperity, which anybody can get along with. Anybody can get along with prosperity. The hard part is the other. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Do you believe in providence? I mean, do you really believe that God is providing for you? Do you really believe that he is working a good work that he started in you? Philippians 1:3, that he's going to, do you believe he's going to bring to fruition in the coming of Christ? Do you think he's moving you along? Do you think he's developing and growing you? Or did you get baptized and he said, now just sit down and be quiet until I come back. Do you believe his providence has brought you where you are right now? Both in the prosperity, but in the humility, in the humiliation, in the struggle, in the hurt, in the pain, in your own prison. Has he brought you there? Brothers and sisters, God brought Paul to prison providentially. Now, you can say it however you want to. He allowed him to go to prison, or he sent him to prison. Under the providence of God, Paul is in prison. And thank God he is, so he had time to write this letter. His providence has brought me here. His providence has allowed me to be brought here. However you want to say it. God allowed these things to happen, or he caused them to happen. It's still his providence. Because he either allowed it to happen so he can work through it, or he made it happen so he can work through it. Since I seek God, there is purpose in my situation. This is a mantra we need to remind ourselves of every day. Since I seek God, and I believe in his providence, there is purpose in my situation. And the purpose is not just to get to Houston. There's a purpose on the way. There's a purpose every moment. It's almost guaranteed that you don't see the purpose. That's why you got to remind yourself of it. Guys, we can't see providence except in hindsight. We can only see providence in our rearview mirror. We can only see, yes, I now see how God brought me through that. We don't see that in the experience. That's why we have to trust it. Until I can see it, I'm going to believe it. Now, I want you to know, brethren, that my circumstances have turned out for the greater progress of the gospel. I want you to notice the paradigm shift that Paul is doing. It's not about his circumstances. It's about the presentation of the gospel. It's about what happens to the readers of this book. It's about what happens to folks who hear about him being imprisoned. His paradigm has shifted to, why am I behind this wheel for 8 hours? To, I'm behind this wheel, now what am I going to do? I want you to know, brethren, that my circumstances have turned out for the greater progress of the gospel. So that my imprisonment in the cause of Christ has become well known throughout the whole Praetorian Guard and to everyone else. And that most of the brethren, trusting in the Lord because of my imprisonment, have far more courage. If me being in prison encourages others to evangelize, let me rot in prison. And he's going to say, I don't know what's better, to stay here or to go on. According to earnest expectation and hope, that I shall not be put to shame in anything, but with all boldness, Christ shall even now, as always, be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. If I die in this prison, I want everybody to see my consistency and my steadfastness. That's why he's saying that I may not be put to shame. I don't submit to this and become, oh, woe is me. I don't turn on God because he allowed me to be in prison. I can't preach in prison. I can't do missionary journeys and establish churches in prison. And he said, woe be it to me if I become an embarrassment, because I do not endure. Because I do not focus on what he is doing here. Even now, as always, be exalted in my body, whether by life or death. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. For if I'm to live on in this flesh, this will mean fruitful labor for you. I don't know which to choose, but I'm hard pressed from both directions. Having the desire to depart, be with Christ. For this is very much better. Yet to remain on in the flesh is more necessary for your sake. Maybe it's not about you. Maybe what you are experiencing or what you're enduring, maybe the hurt that you carry with you constantly is not about you at all. And if it's not, then a paradigm shift will change everything, even though the suffering goes nowhere. The circumstances don't need to change. The paradigm needs to shift. Kingdom come, thy will be done. How did Jesus endure the cross? How did he accept when he prayed to God, if there's any other way, let this cup pass? How did he accept that God said no? That he answered his prayer? No. But you see, he didn't answer his prayer, no. Because Jesus didn't try to box him in that way. If there's any other way, let this cup pass. But not my will, your will be done. In other words, this is not about me. This is about you. He went away again a second time in prayer. My Father, this cannot pass away unless I drink it. Your will be done. If I rot and die in this prison, your will be done. Because others are going to be better off because of that. Do not say, I hope that I don't have to, and you can fill in the blank. I hope I don't have to continue here. I hope I don't have to suffer more. I hope I don't have to continue suffering what I'm suffering. I'm hoping I'm not tempted by this. I hope that I don't have to endure that. I hope that what's happening to other people never happens to me. Don't say that. For that sets in your mind an acceptable endurance limit. I've heard people, and I understand it, that are going to have a child. What do you want, a boy or a girl? What do you pray for? The only thing we ask is that it's healthy. What if it's not? What if it's not? Do you then reject the child? Do you reject God? Do you reject yourselves? You see, you've set an expectation. Rather, it is, if a child that is not healthy must come into this world, my prayer is that child will be given to you. Because I know you will love that child no matter what. Because your love for the child is based on your love for God, and your love for God is not based on the circumstances into which this child is born. So do not say, I don't hope that I have to, whatever it is, for that sets an unacceptable endurance limit in the mind. I'll do this as long as I don't have to do this. Well, if I'm called to do this, now I've accepted that as unacceptable. Rather say, if God wills, if I must, then I will. I will endure because He will empower me to do that. Now you're going to be called to kneel. Do you understand what that means? When you kneel, you're giving up your autonomy and your authority. And you're accepting the authority of your master and your king, who is working right now, this moment, providentially in your life. Paul assured us of that. I am sure. Do you submit your will to his? Not my will, but thine be done. Don't sing this song unless you mean it. Mean this song when you seek it. Do we need change? Do you need a change of mind, a change of paradigm? We can help you with that this morning, and I guarantee you it will change everything. Can we do that together? Come as you stand and sing, would you?